Part 7. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 61. Everyone seemed to be relieved from the tension in an instant, but they were still a little scared, afraid of being backlashed by the market, and everyone was quiet all morning. At this moment, not only Lu Feng is waiting, Ren Qianbo is also waiting, and most of the local business people are waiting. When Lu Feng can realize the return of profits, the products sold have already caught the hearts of users, even in the retail market. The boss does not recommend it, but will still buy it. This car took the goods from the morning and went to the local wholesale market first, but when they heard that the price was rising, the boss gathered, and then went to 2 more places, but they were all rejected. The driver took the goods directly out of the city and went straight to go to the next city. At 10:30 in the morning, a truckload of goods went out smoothly. Carloads of goods were dispatched from the factory. Although there were fewer people pulling goods, they were all waiting for the price to drop, waiting to see Lu Feng's jokes. However, after 3 cars in the morning, none of them were returned. The wholesale market sells a lot of goods, constantly urging these people to buy if they want to make money, or they won't make any money, and the market begins to force vendors. From the afternoon onwards, people who were pulling goods lined up in long queues, and trucks after trucks of goods were pulled away. It continued until 7 o'clock in the evening, and it was completely dark. In the office, with a big head holding the account book, his face was full of joy, and he cleared his throat and said, "Be quiet, I'm here to announce that today we made a profit of 4,800. Peace." Applaud. Everyone applauded, and Lu Feng also clapped his hands while sitting in the chair. This is still 10% of the profit. According to saturated production, the daily net profit of this factory is at least 50,000 yuan. What is that concept? The monthly profit of 1.5 million is an astronomical figure for ordinary people today. Okay, it's just the beginning, Lu Feng said with a warm smile. Let's publish our data, and rest early. During this time, we should increase the number of people. The factory is full of 800 or 900 people, and it's still far away. Woolen cloth. Lu Feng's so-called announcement was just to pass the word to Ren Qianbo. In the Wanyuan Foods office, the lights were bright, and Ren Qianbo was sitting on a chair. His whole body seemed to be drawn out of energy, and the quiet needle falling in the room could be heard. "President Ren, things have come to this point, I should go to," Lu Biao said softly. "Wait for a few more days, there are still some employees left, give it a shot and settle the salary," Ren Qianbo said weakly. "Okay, there's no money in the account. Give them the wages of those children's food, love it or not." "Understood." Lu Biao stood up and walked out. The room fell into silence again. The local business world was restless, and Lu Feng's profit meant that Ren Qianbo had no chance at all. Everything came too fast, and a company went to demise in just 1 month. Mr. Huan kept on the phone, chatting with people about the 2 children's food factories, hung up the phone, leaned on the chair and sighed long, as if the gossip had been satisfied. He witnessed one person's life from beginning to end. Rise is also rare. The next day, Wanyuan Foods announced the temporary closure of the factory. The owner, Ren Qianbo, disappeared. In the morning, there were a lot of suppliers and workers asking for wages, holding banners and blocking the door of the factory. When Lu Feng passed by on a motorcycle, he stopped, lit a cigarette and watched it for a while, thinking to himself, "Feng Shui took turns, and he came to my house today." Having lost the last bit of competitiveness, Lu Feng now dominates the entire children's food market. When customers face children's food, they have no choice, and the merchants' fangs do not hesitate to show. Profit points have all recovered. In the office, Gao Jiwei hesitated. Is it too fast? Wanyuan has just announced to stop production. Let's increase the profit so much. Take your time. Lu Feng pointed at the month sign next to him, shook his head and said, "I can't wait, I calculated, we have burned 820,000 yuan this month, and we need to fill it in. There are only 20 days left, 40,000 yuan per day. Fine. Let's take a look at today's situation. According to your estimate, if our factory is full, the monthly profit will be more than 1 million. Gao Jiwei patted his thigh excitedly and said, more than 1 million. Looking at how you have never seen the world, it's a pity that you were still working in Wahaha before. There are only 2 or 3 months left until the end of the year. This year's goal is to get this factory up and down and buy Wan Yuan's factory. To produce enough energy to occupy the whole province market first. Lu Feng pondered for a while and said, it will be even better if we can evaluate an excellent company at the beginning of next year. Gao Jiwei nodded happily and said, then go to other provinces to open factories, go to TV stations to advertise, invite celebrities, establish a brand image, and then internationalize. Seeing that the more and more he said, Lu Feng hurriedly said, stop, there is one premise for doing this, that is, the supplier must be stable, the industrial chain cannot be formed, and nothing can be accomplished. Then what do you mean? Fill in the account first, and then make plans. Lu Feng pondered, if you don't earn enough, you can find a way to borrow some. If the big hole is over, are you still afraid of this hole? If you have extra money, or it's too humming cold to buy a car. Ha 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 ha, Gao Jiwei laughed. Lu Feng said that he would buy a car for a month, which seemed to be coming soon. Although Lu Feng estimated today's profit, he was still taken aback. At 6 o'clock in the evening, the product was completely sold out, and there was still a long queue at the door. Lu Feng immediately found the personnel department and asked him to go to the talent market to recruit people, start working in 2 shifts, and buy a new machine. Brother Feng, guess how much profit is today? 50,000. It's already 86,000 yuan. If we produce at full capacity, there is no problem with our daily profit of 100,000 yuan, Datu said excitedly. Hearing this number, Lu Feng was also a little excited, took a deep breath and said, got it, go get busy. What is Raijin Dujin? Lu Feng's current status is that he is making gold every day. Among the private enterprises in the city, he is definitely the most profitable, with a maximum profit of 150,000 a day. After the factory is fully staffed, the profit will remain around 120,000. If you only look at the local food factories, GMA is definitely second to none, but Lu Feng knows that Wahaha now has 5 or 6 factories. Just less than a year after its establishment, there was a rush to buy, causing more than 2,000 factories to be unable to supply. There is another thing that crosses his mind: raw material suppliers. People like Zhou Weiman are unreliable, and the supply of raw materials must be in his own hands after all. With the sufficient funds in the account, Lu Feng was relieved about the storm of fundraising and handed it over to Gao Jiwei to return all the money. There will definitely be troubles, and some people will even go to court to sue. Lu Feng has thought about it from the beginning and made a leak. It was cold and windy outside the window, but the house was as warm as spring. It was already 9 o'clock in the morning, and Lu Feng still couldn't get up, and he didn't let Zhang Xiaoyan get up. Aren't you going to the factory? Zhang Xiaoyan struggled and said, take your hands. Lu Feng snorted twice, give yourself a holiday today. If you don't go, you'll be on the right track. I'll be fine even if I go there every 2 weeks. Your money is too good to earn. You go twice a month and earn millions. Yes, that's the advantage of being a boss. Lu Feng raised his head and said, daughter-in-law, I want to buy a car. Zhang Xiaoyan has become accustomed to calling him this disgusting name during this time, and he has done even more shameless actions on his hands. You're also a big boss now, you can buy it if you want, Zhang Xiaoyan said happily. Let's drive home during the new year. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 62. Lu Feng nodded, and his hands swam a little restlessly. A moment later, Zhang Xiaoyan's pretty face flushed red, and her watery eyes were indescribably endearing. "Mama, are you not feeling well?" Duo ran over and asked loudly, lying beside the bed. Lu Feng sighed and said to himself, "I'd better get up." Zhang Xiaoyan rolled his eyes at him and said to Duo, "Mom is a little uncomfortable, you can go play, Mom gets up and cooks for you." Lu Feng was sitting on the sofa watching TV, but he was thinking about buying a car. Buying a car now is not a Fourth Sun store. It is exclusive to big cities. If you want to buy a car, you have to find a relationship. After thinking about it, I picked up the phone and called Mr. Huang. The other end picked up the phone and asked, "Who is it?" "Mr. Huang, it's me, Lu Feng of GMA Foods." "Mr. Lu? Rare customer, I'm really flattered that you can still call me now." President Wang's words were full of ridicule. "What are you talking about? I've only had a day off today, and I'm at home. Now you're not an ordinary person. Last time we ate together, a group of people said who made the most money, and they all thought it was you. I heard that your factory has a net profit of several 100,000 a day. How is that possible?" Lu Feng hurriedly pulled the topic back and said, "I just want to know something from you. What do you mean by being polite to me? I want to know about Ren Qianbo's factory. Can I sell it? My productivity is not good recently, and I need to expand it urgently. I think his factory is good." "Where are the people now?" Lu Feng asked. "I really don't know this. He owes a lot of debts, and there are many debt collectors. He ran away. I have news to help you keep an eye on it. One more thing. If you want to buy a car, just buy a Santana. I don't know if you know anyone. It's simple. I know a car dealer, but there is a handling fee. Please remember your phone number." Lu Feng wrote down the phone, and after being polite for a long time, he hung up the phone, looked at the phone number he had written down, and dialed. Lu Feng sat on the sofa and sighed that it is hard to spend money now. "Let's eat." Zhang Xiaoyan put breakfast on the table, ate a lot, and winked at Lu Feng. This little guy became more and more like a stubborn princess. An hour later, Lu Feng went downstairs. There was a car parked downstairs. The driver was a man in his 30s. He was wearing a leather jacket and sunglasses. He looked like a Hong Kong typhoon. Seeing that Lu Feng was so young, the other party looked at him and asked, "Are you buying a car?" "Yeah, what's wrong?" Lu Feng wondered, "isn't it like that?" The other party didn't speak, just nodded and drove the car away. Cars are in short supply now. Although a Santana sold for a sky-high price of more than 200,000 yuan, the supply is still in short supply. Now, the handling fee for reselling the car is very expensive. If Lu Feng buys it this time, he will give him 10,000 yuan. Even Lu Feng is jealous of the speed of making money. It's a pity that it's not something ordinary people can do. This kind of person has a huge network of connections. Half an hour later, in a warehouse on the edge of the city, the other party opened the door, and there was a brand new Santana parked inside, and all the procedures were placed on the seat. "If you want it, the price is 260,000 yuan. It's definitely a new car. You can drive it and register it directly." Lu Feng walked around the car. He had bought cars several times in the last life, but this was the first time he had seen this kind of transaction. On the body, it looks like a thief. "No problem, go to the bank to transfer money." Lu Feng patted the top cover of the machine and said solemnly. The other party raised his brows and looked at Lu Feng in surprise, as if he did not expect him to agree so happily. After all, it was more than 200,000 yuan, not a small sum of money. "Dude, what are you doing? You are so rich," the other party asked suspiciously. "Opening a factory." "Opening a factory," the other party stared at Lu Feng with wide eyes, and said uncertainly, "The surname is Lu. Right, from Gamay Foods. How do you know? A local factory owner. At your age, you can only afford so much money, and only the boss of GMA is the boss. You are very famous now. After the other party confirmed that it was Lu Feng, he became obviously polite. My name is Yao Zixu. Well, Quan should make a friend, 250,000. Thank you. Then Lu Feng opened the door, started the car, and asked casually, where is the car? From Baiwan City. A friend of mine took the car directly from the south. The channel is absolutely assured. What our family does has something to do with you. The raw materials for Hawthorne are to supply you, and to make fruit tan skins and so on. The speaker was not interested and the listener was interested. Lu Feng thought about it and asked, are you selling food for the people? Yeah, how do you know? Then what else do you have besides Hawthorne? Our place is a semi-processing place with a lot of raw materials. Yao Zixu saw what Lu Feng was thinking, smiled and said, don't think about it too much, it's someone else's territory, how dare you get involved? Just asking, I don't know much about raw materials. Lu Feng took the car and tried various functions. When he got to the bank, he transferred 260,000 yuan to Yao Zixu, but Lu Feng didn't give any less than 10,000 yuan. Isn't it enough to give 25? Yao Zixu was a little surprised, then smiled and said, Mr. Lu is really rich now. Don't get me wrong, I just want to know the situation in Baiwan City. How many such raw material processing plants are there? Lu Feng asked. 2. We process this kind of raw materials, not only to supply you, but also to the south. It is a local pillar industry, and Zhou is a relatively large one. Yao Zixu pondered for a while and said, ordinary people can't get involved. If you start, they have a fellow villager, so they won't ask you to be an outsider. Lu Feng nodded, said thank you, and then said, I want to know something, I can call you. No problem, I'm also happy to make friends like President Lu. I have something else to do. Let's go first. Lu Feng said a few polite words, went out and got into the car, turned on the heater, and felt very comfortable. Not only did he buy the car, but he also found out about Zhou old background, which was an unexpected gain. I filled up my car, and when I was passing through the city center, I saw a tape store with songs playing at the door. I stopped the car and bought a few tapes. Next to it is a high-end electronic product store. Today's electronic products are high-end products in the true sense, not MP3, MP4, and repeaters that will be more than 10 years later. There are big brothers and pagers inside. Lu Feng looked at the half-brick-like thing, and he was amazed. No one dared to think that decades later, this thing is only the size of a palm, can surf the internet, and can play games. What to watch? A clerk came out, his voice weak, giving people a sense of sarcasm. How much is it, big brother? 28. When Lu Feng heard the price, he still felt that there was no such demand. He looked at the pager and asked, how much is Han Xian? 1016. 10 minutes later, Lu Feng had a pager on his waist, and he looked a lot more lavish, especially when he sat in the Santana. An absolute successful person, not only had great lethality to little girls, but also to married young women. After driving into the factory, Lu Feng handed the key to Han Dong and asked him to go through the household registration procedures. He entered Gao Jiwei's office and said, I have something to tell you. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 63. Gao Jiwei looked at Lu Feng up and down, smiled like a fox, leaned back on the chair and said, Mr. Lu's spirit is different. It's different if you have a car. Stop talking nonsense. Do you know where Zhou Weiman's purchase base is? Lu Feng sat down and said. Where, Gao Jiwei sat up straight and became serious. These things were all trade secrets. It was as if some people didn't know GMA Food Factory and could only pick up goods from second-hand dealers. Baiwan City, Lu Feng briefly explained the matter. Then what do you mean? Spend money in after the new year and find a supplier yourself, Gao Jiwei asked curiously. Lu Feng shook his head and said solemnly, it's too cumbersome, and it's impossible to get in under this kind of market pressure. I just want to hold a stake and make sure it serves me, not to chomp my neck at any time. I think I'm a little too anxious. You're not going to go during this time, are you? Yes, the accounts have been settled, and I have nothing to do. I can develop in peace without worrying about the future. I have to do this before the new year. Lu Feng looked worried. Don't go, you go to other people's sites, pry other people's business, and they have fellow villagers. If you say something bad, no one dares to collect your body when you die there. This is not local, you have your network covered. I didn't have any connections in the beginning. People are getting to know each other slowly. Lu Feng stood up and said, this matter is settled. During this period of time, you are the general manager, and the factory will be handed over to you. By the way, I bought a pager, I can contact you if there is anything. Gao Jiwei felt that Lu Feng had already decided that as long as he decided, there was no room for turning back, and he could only seek more blessings for himself. After lunch at noon, Lu Feng got to know the overall situation of the factory, and then called everyone together and held a meeting. It was considered that the power of the factory was handed over to Gao Jiwei. If you want to open a branch and go out, you must ensure the stability of raw material suppliers, or you have to be controlled by others. Back home in the afternoon, Zhang Xiaoyan looked at the car with a happy face. Lu Feng let her get in the car and dragged her around the city center. The family of three couldn't say how happy they were. It's great to have a car, you can go wherever you want. Zhang Xiaoyan looked at the interior with contentment on her face. Yeah, it's convenient to have a car and it won't freeze. Lu Feng drove the car and said, I'm going to go to another place in the next few days, and it may take a long time. What are you doing out of town? Zhang Xiaoyan's face was full of astonishment. For today's people, going out of town is a big deal, and the transportation is inconvenient. After many people leave their hometowns, there is no news. I don't understand what happened in the factory. Even if I told you. Lu Feng stepped on the accelerator, turned the corner at the intersection in front of him, and went ahead to the Tianyu Hotel. I'm happy today, I'll go to the Tianyu Hotel for dinner. It's not good if you don't go, just call if you have anything. How many days will you go? Zhang Xiaoyan asked with concern. I don't know, I have to get things done, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. It's been 2 months since the Chinese New Year. You're leaving me alone for the new year, Zhang Xiaoyan complained a bit, and whispered, you don't discuss anything with me, just tell me the answer. I was a few years ago. A man from uncle's village, went to work in other places and never came back. No, don't worry, Lu Feng said and parked his car downstairs in Tianyu Hotel. This meal, Duo was very happy. He kept calling Dad at the dinner table and even kissing his face. This little sycophant became more and more likable. Only Zhang Xiaoyan kept her head down while eating and didn't speak. Her worries are not unreasonable, the current social situation is not optimistic, there are many idiots, and there are even robbers, and there are countless petty thefts. What's more, going to someone else's site and picking someone's property, even Lu Feng felt a little nervous. However, if he does not take this step, he will not think about confronting Wahaha head-on because of the limited supply of raw materials. This step must be taken, and it must be completed years ago. At night, lying on the bed, looking at the moonlight outside the window, Zhang Xiaoyan's hand was searching under the covers, holding Lu Feng's hand, and whispering, I won't go, okay, we are already very rich. We should be richer. Lu Feng turned to look at her and said, Go to bed earlier. Zhang Xiaoyan rubbed forward, bit her lip and said, why don't you just go to sleep tonight? Tired, don't worry. Lu Feng changed his posture and closed his eyes. After several days of inquiring about the situation of Baiwan City, especially Zhou Weiman's details, I could understand as much as I could. Lu Feng prepared a card for himself, and stored most of the money in the factory in the card. There will be calls one after another. With only 2 months and 9 days left until the Chinese New Year, and the cold completely enveloped the land, Lu Feng decided to go there and find a supply chain of his own to get rid of Zhou Weiman completely. Before leaving, he instructed Zhang Xiaoyan to take care of herself, call the factory if there is anything, and you can also call him. Baiwan City is more than 300 kilometers away from here. If it is put in 20 or 30 years, it will only take an hour by motor car, and even if it is by car, it will only take 2 or 3 hours. But now it's a day away. Not to mention expressways, there are no flat concrete roads, but more compacted dirt roads. Lu Feng drove the car with extreme caution, keeping in mind that if he did not enter the village, he would not stop when someone asked for directions, and he would not stop when someone was injured on the road, and he would never take a rough road. Until the evening, nothing happened, and it was already in a county not far from Baiwan City. Lu Feng found a good hotel to stay in. He heard the sound from the next door as soon as he entered the room. Obviously, the sound insulation was very general. After taking a brief shower, he fell back to sleep. In a daze, he heard the woman's sharp cry, which was a bit miserable. Lu Feng opened his eyes and pricked up his ears to listen. The next door was fighting. The noise was getting louder and louder, which was annoying. After a while, someone knocked on the door, which was very urgent. A woman shouted from outside the door, "Is there anyone? Open the door." Lu Feng got up from the bed, just opened a crack in the door, a woman quickly got in, and then closed the door. The room was very dark, but Lu Feng could feel that her nerves were tense, her breathing was rough, her back was firmly against the door, and there was a constant pacing of a man outside the door, followed by scolding. "Who are you?" Lu Feng asked. The woman stretched out her hand to cover Lu Feng's mouth and whispered, "Don't talk." The light in the bathroom was on, and there was a faint light through the corridor. Lu Feng could see that the woman was about 1.65 meters tall, and she seemed to be about 278. She had a medium appearance, a good figure, and was dressed in clothes. Some are particular and speak with a strong local accent. After waiting for a long time, the man outside the door could not find where she had gone, and then gradually became silent. "Who is he from you?" The woman stared at Lu Feng with wide eyes and replied, "I'm a man." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 64. When Lu Feng heard this answer, his heart skipped a beat. The first thing he thought of was he jumped by an immortal? "You two are fighting, there's no need to run into my house, right?" Lu Feng was talking, he could smell the unique fragrance on her body, he didn't dare to say it was refreshing, and it was absolutely tempting. He said, "It's time for you to go out." "I don't want to go out." The woman was very nervous, reached out to grab Lu Feng's arm, and trembled. "He will kill me, he will really kill me." "I heard that the voice has gone, and besides, what are you doing in my room?" Lu Feng said, and was about to open the door and let her out. "I'm not going out, I'm begging you, I'll kneel down for you." The woman's voice trembled as she knelt on the ground and wept incessantly. Lu Feng didn't expect her to react so violently. Judging from the expression on her face in the dark, it didn't look like it was fake. If this was an act, then he could only sigh that the actress is in the folk. Lu Feng turned on the light, only to find that the woman was wearing a denim jacket, very stylish, with bruises on her face, a large piece of perm torn off, and a bag on her shoulders. "This dress is very avant-garde, like the dress after more than 10 years, Plus the woman's figure and looks are good, it seems that it is not ordinary people. You're going to get divorced if you can't make it through. Why is it so noisy? Lu Feng sat down, and the woman was also looking at him. Her eyes stayed on the pager at his waist for a few seconds. Just to understand, the woman's name is Bai Yuanfang, she is from this county, and she has been married for more than 8 years. This is not the first time to fight. She has fought many times before. The reason is that men are looking for women outside, and they also want her to go out of the house. He's not looking for one. There are many foxes around him. They're all those little hooves. Bai Yuanfang cried as he spoke. I can't help you either. Lu Feng thought that this was someone else's family matter. If he got it back, he couldn't explain it himself. If he came here to do something and made a mess of it, Zhang Xiaoyan could kill him. You don't know how poisonous he is. Bai Yuanfang didn't listen to Lu Feng's words at all, and said to himself, it's fine to play outside, but to bring it home and be in front of me with that slut. Pigs and dogs are not as good. Damn it! Is it so exciting? Lu Feng's eyes widened, and he was really shocked. He thought about it for a long time. There are children outside, and the son doesn't want it anymore. I don't want it anymore. It's a pity that I'm still guarding him. It's just sick. Bai Yuanfang wiped away tears and looked at Lu Feng with a very firm look. Said solemnly, take off your clothes, let's take revenge on him. Lu Feng was startled, stood up and took 2 steps back. Now her face is swollen, her hair has been torn off, and her clothes are messy. Lu Feng whispered, sister, are you sure you want to take revenge on him? Not on me? When Bai Yuanfang heard this, he burst into tears. Seeing her feeling a little overwhelmed, Lu Feng sighed and sat down and chatted with her. He married at the age of 19, and he was poor and poor. Later, he started his own business with the support of nobles and made a lot of money in a few years. But with money, men began to spend their days drinking and drinking. In fact, Bai Yuanfang found out a few years ago that he was looking for an escort at the dinner party. The other party explained to her that the dinner party was like this. She also knew a little about the business dinner and didn't say anything more. Unexpectedly, tolerance would bring harm. What does your company do? Lu Feng asked. Edible gum base, edible essence, additives, these, many of them are synthetic, semi-processed or something. Bai Yuanfang choked and asked, what do you do? Hearing these things, Lu Feng's heart thumped. These things were all he needed. He sighed inwardly. I'm a college student, just graduated. Lu Feng replied. Looking at you, I guess you are also a college student. Where is it allocated? It's allotted, but I don't want to go because I had a fight with my family. I took some money and drove out in my dad's car. Lu Feng said very calmly. Our sisters are also considered to be fallen people from the end of the world. Yeah, it's fate to meet you in a hotel in this small county town. Sister, what are you going to do next? I want them to get out. I just want to take back the company that belongs to me, and I want me to leave the house without a door. Bai Yuanfang's face was ruthless. Sister, I'll help you. I don't like this rubbish man the most. How much do you own? Lu Feng asked indignantly. Thank you, I own 20% of the shares and he owns 80% of the shares. When Lu Feng heard that the proportion of shares was only 1 or 2, they had absolute control. It was already 2 o'clock in the middle of the night. Lu Feng yawned and said, Sister, I'll open a room for you, rest early. There are. What's the matter? We'll talk about it tomorrow. I'm not going out. If he doesn't leave, I'm afraid I'll be finished today, so I'll sleep with you. Just one bed, Lu Feng said helplessly. Such a big bed, you can sleep well without taking off your clothes? Are you afraid that I will take advantage of you as a college student? Bai Yuanfang smiled, the flesh on his face was trembling, and there was a flash of pain in his eyes. Just a quilt, how about I open another one? No, You can't open the door. Lu Feng couldn't beat her, so he lay on the bed. Although he had a simple understanding of each other, he still put his pager, car keys, wallet, and other valuables under the pillow when he slept. Defenses cannot do without. The next day, after 3 poles passed, Lu Feng suddenly felt a pair of hands stroking around him and rushed down. He suddenly woke up, grabbed his hands and stared at Bai Yuanfang with wide eyes. She leaned against Lu Feng tightly, only a suspender was left on her body. It looked like she had been groomed, not as scary as yesterday, a pair of plump shoulders against Lu Feng. Are you awake? She stared at Lu Feng with wide eyes, her eyes wandered, and she said softly, you college students are all so strong. Lu Feng regretted a little. He regretted saying that he was a college student. College students these days are definitely a rare thing. As long as you are a college student, someone will flirt with you, which is true. She scolded her man last night for not being a thing, but this morning, it seemed that the two were a good match. Why don't you talk? Are you shy? Bai Yuanfang said, and leaned up again. Her body was already half on Lu Feng's body. Lu Feng couldn't tell the feeling in his heart. He had been in the world for so many years, and he had never seen him on any occasion. Usually, he molested others, but now he was molested by a 27 or 8-year-old woman. The key is that I feel a little flustered in my heart. Sister, I want to get up, you are pressing me. Why are you stammering? Bai Yuanfang laughed, pursed her lips and said, I just like intellectuals like you. I just love them when I see them. I also like to wear glasses. I woke up an hour ago, and it's quiet. When I look at you, I feel that you are a gift from God. Lu Feng felt like a wolf, like a tiger. He wanted to refuse, but it was absolutely easy to find a breakthrough in Bai Yuanfang. If he didn't refuse, he would be swallowed in the next second. I'm going to the toilet. It's a young man, after all, the firepower is really strong. Bai Yuanfang took Lu Feng's hand and said seriously, I think about it, I want to divorce him. He hurt me so many times, and I want to get revenge on him once. Bai Yuanfang said and kissed him. Lu Feng hurriedly avoided him. He fell off the bed and stood up in a hurry. Sister, let's repay our grievances with virtue. You want to take revenge on him? I'm weak. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 65. At 9 o'clock in the morning, after breakfast, Lu Feng first drove her to the hospital and briefly treated the wound on her face. During this time, she learned intermittently from Bai Yuanfang's mouth that the two of them were in this situation. A company worth about 6 or 7 million. According to what she said, she couldn't get control of the company at all, and she could only draw water from a bamboo basket, but she said that she had about 1 million cash in her hand. After leaving the hospital, Lu Feng was still thinking, if he could win the company, even if he could not completely replace Zhou Weiman, he would not be controlled by others. I still want to thank you, my sister will invite you to dinner. There is a good bone restaurant in front of you. After the meal, you and my sister will go to Baiwan City. Bai Yuanfang's face was swollen and excited. She looked at Lu Feng and said, you don't have a place to live yet, go to my sister's place. Sister Bai, didn't you say that you want to take the company back? I have a solution, Lu Feng said calmly. If you think of a way to get him to sell the equity, you only need to get 51%. Already. If he sold it, he would have sold it long ago. Bai Yuanfang sighed and said, you just left the school, so you don't understand this. After meeting you, my sister is in a much better mood. It is better than anything to spend more time with my sister. Can sister treat you badly? Lu Feng was a little speechless when he heard these words. Obviously he regarded him as a little boy, and when he heard this, he wanted to come out of the golden house to hide the beauty. Sister, I still have some ideas about this kind of change in the company's shareholding. You give me food and accommodation, and I will help you, Lu Feng said, and parked his car in front of the Bone Museum. During the meal, Lu Feng learned that Bai Yuanfang's factory also joined the local Raw Material Processing Association. Zhou Weiman was also in this association, mainly adjusting prices, coordinating the market, and advancing and retreating together. If he wants to win this company and back GMA, Lu Feng must get more than 30% of the shares, plus Bai Yuanfang's shares, to get the company's management rights. If you want to do this as an ordinary person, it is very difficult to do. Lu Feng is gnawing on his bones, and he is also secretly worried. He looks at Bai Yuanfang, suddenly thinks of something, and says, "A raw material company like yours will know how to do it. Who are you cursing? It must be flattering that we need our products, and worrying about not being able to sell it. What's wrong? Which company needs the most raw materials? White rabbits, golden monkeys, they have a lot of products. As long as you catch up with them and become a supplier, there will be tens of millions of dollars a year. Then I will become the son of these two companies from now on, and I will play a big show and get the equity," Lu Feng suggested. Bai Yuanfang is a clever person. After thinking about it for a while, he felt that this was feasible, and said solemnly, "Yes, but you have to prepare, and I will pack it for you." "No problem, let the wind go out first. If you want to act, you can act in a full set. From the airport to the hotel, to the meeting, one stop, don't cause too much shock, just see your man alone, and quickly win the equity," Lu Feng said in a deep voice. "As expected of a college student, my brain is smart. I will be busy today. I will find a few newspapers and publish some news." A smile appeared on Lu Feng's face. This kind of thing was familiar to him, and he had even begun to imagine that he would go back in a few days. Before the Chinese New Year, relying on the supply capacity, he would open another factory and expand the market. As everyone knows, he will also have a day of play. In this place, food supply and processing are the pillars of the industry. In the afternoon, Lu Feng drove to Baiwan City. Bai Yuanfang lived in a very good place, a small Western-style building on the second floor. Lu Feng sat down and taught her how to concoct fake news. And on the same day, he bought some high-end suits, got some fake documents, and changed his name to Wenbufan. The next day, some small newspapers began to spread the news that the son of the chairman of Big White Rabbit Toffee was going to visit Baiwan City. Lu Feng reads the newspaper at home every day, and puts out news little by little. At the same time, she called Zhang Xiaoyan and told her that she had arrived, so that she could rest assured. For several days, news about Wenbufan, the son of the chairman of the Big White Rabbit, has been flying around, and some people have begun to believe it, but more people have been looking for contact information everywhere, wanting to confirm whether it is true. Bai Yuanfang's injury has almost healed. Sitting at the dinner table and talking about the recent situation, Lu Feng nodded secretly and said, "Just tell him tonight, just say that there is a special relationship between the two of us." "Special relationship? Is it the kind on the bed?" Tisk, Lu Feng was a little speechless. How could someone so rich and young like her? After thinking about it, he said, "Just say that one of your friends hooked up with him." "Okay, I get it. You might come back late at night. You should rest early. Also, you don't need to lock the door when you sleep at night." Bai Yuanfang's voice carried a bit of resentment. Lu Feng smiled at her and let her experience it for herself. She didn't know how to turn the door a few times a night with the door locked. If she didn't lock it, something might happen. After 9 o'clock in the evening, Bai Yuanfang drove out. She knew her husband well, and instead of going to his residence, she went directly to the charm ballroom. A man in his 30s, holding a little girl in his arms, his hands moved around his waist, and the two were close together. The little girl's face was already a little red, and she jumped towards the dark corner. "And go. Mr. Qian, don't do this. President Qian likes this, Don't worry, I have money. The man smiled, indescribably wretched. Bai Yuanfang glanced around, locked his eyes on Qianzongnan, walked over to him, and said bluntly, "Do you want to play first, or talk to me about something first? Where did you bastard go that night? How dare you come out?" Qianzongnan stared at Bai Yuanfang, his eyes were burning with fire. He let go of the woman in his arms and started to do it. "I know Wen Bufan, and I have a business negotiation. I don't want to talk about the rest." Qianzongnan's raised hand froze in the air, and he slowly lowered his hand and said, "Talk in the private room upstairs, and the divorce must be negotiated today." "No problem, I want to leave too," Bai Yuanfang said and went upstairs. The decoration of private room number 4 is very luxurious. Not only does it have a carpet, a TV, and a sofa, but you can also sing karaoke. There is a girl sitting on the sofa. Makeup is painted on his face, giving a bit of a bitch feeling. "You still dare to come, aren't you afraid that your man will kill you?" The woman looked at her disdainfully and said, "I tell you, it's better to get away and bring your bastard son, I don't want to see it." Bai Yuanfang told herself not to be angry, but she was still furious when she saw her. She took a deep breath and said, "You are so cheap at such a young age, destroying people's families. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning?" "Who are you scolding?" The woman stood up and was about to start. "What are you doing?" Qianzongnan walked in and said coldly, "Go out, it's nothing to do with you here." The woman walked out, and Bai Yuanfang sat down and said, "You are 5 years older than me, and she is 9 years younger than me. She's really rich, so playful. If you want to talk shit like that, get out, I don't want to hear it. Then let me say it straight, I know the son of the chairman of Big White Rabbit. They are going to visit and find a few suppliers. I hope Zongnan Processing Factory can connect with them." Bai Yuanfang said coldly, "Of course, I also have mine. You either give money or shares, and the divorce is done." The smile on Qianzongnan's face was a big deal, and he said, "No problem. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 66. This is the most peaceful time the two have sat down in the past year, and the rest of the time is basically a fight. "Where did you meet people?" Qianzongnan asked suspiciously. "My friend slept with him. He called me a few days ago and talked about it. Didn't I go on a business trip to the south 2 years ago? I met him," Bai Yuanfang said frankly. Qianzongnan thought about it and asked, "Have you ever slept with him?" "You still care about this," Bai Yuanfang said disdainfully. "I want to say, if you've slept with others, this matter will be more stable. A group as big as the Big White Rabbit has a very large market, so hurry up with your face, clean up, and do things properly." Qianzongnan stood up and said, "If it does, I will borrow it and give you 3 million. Bai Yuanfang looked at the cigarette on the table, picked it up and smoked one, a little choked. She thought the other party still cared, thought he still cared about this family, at least there were children. At that moment her heart ignited, but unfortunately she was doused with transparent. "Humph." Bai Yuanfang sneered, with a certain determination in his eyes, took a sharp puff of cigarette, coughed, but still finished, stood up and walked out of the private room door without looking back. Lu Feng looked at the time on the wall. It was already 11 o'clock in the evening. He sorted out his thoughts, and took advantage of the high-profit temptation of the Big White Rabbit Group to force Qianzongnan to make concessions and sell the company's equity. In order to obtain greater cooperation, the other party must give in. The door was opened, and Bai Yuanfang walked in with her bag. Lu Feng looked at her and felt that her whole body had become a bit gloomy. Lu Feng asked, "How is it going?" "Very good." Bai Yuanfang walked to the coffee table, threw the bag in his hand on the coffee table, sat down beside Lu Feng, suddenly fell into Lu Feng's arms, and whispered, "You said are all men heartless?" Lu Feng was a little overwhelmed by her, and said, "No, aren't I helping you? You are so kind to me. If my sister knew you earlier, it would be great. From the first time I saw you, I felt that we were a good fit." Bai Yuanfang's voice was gentle, but suddenly became cold. "I want him to die, I want his family to be destroyed, and he has nothing." Hearing the hatred from the bottom of his heart, Lu Feng shuddered, put his arms around her back, and said, "Take your time, rest early, prepare for tomorrow, and we'll start the day after tomorrow. You won't lie to me, will you?" Bai Yuanfang's eyes were bright. She longed for a sincerity. She had been lied to too many times, a beating, had a bruised nose and a bruised face, and had witnessed everything. When he asked himself with concern, whether she slept with someone else, her heart would still heat up. She desperately longed for a sincerity. Lu Feng looked at her, a liar who got stuck this time. In a daze, Bai Yuanfang hugged Lu Feng's neck and kissed it, trying to find his lips, and murmured, "Sister knows you are a college student, and she has never attended any school, but she is good. As long as you want what you want, sister bought it for you." Lu Feng turned his head, her red lips rubbed against her face, and thought to herself, what will she be like without the internet now? If this is 30 years later, and a short video is made, the first comment below must be, "Sister, I don't want to work hard. It's time to rest." Lu Feng stood up, went back to the house in a little embarrassment, leaned against the door, and thought to himself, women who have been hurt by love are too scary. The next day, Bai Yuanfang was going to rent a car, and at the same time, he was looking for some bodyguards. He had to continue to build momentum in the business world. He was very busy. Instead, Lu Feng took a lot of leisure and called Gao Jiwei. "The factory is still running normally recently, and the output is still not enough." After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng scolded Ren Qianbo a few times. Where did this bastard go? Now the most suitable factory is his, and he can help him solve his debt problem, but he can't get in touch with anyone. In Baiwan City, in an office in the municipal building, a man in his 40s. Saturday, in addition to the important local newspapers, there were some small newspapers on the table. All turned to the reports about Wang Bufan. The man watched for a while, then picked up the phone and said, "Secretary Li, come in." A few minutes later, a man in his 30s, wearing a white shirt, knocked on the door, walked in and said, "Secretary Zhou, are you looking for me? The big white rabbit group came to us for inspection and didn't notify us." Secretary Zhou wondered, have the private enterprises in our city become so powerful? Secretary Li took a look at the newspaper and said with a smile, "I can't believe this kind of newspaper news, but I've recently heard that Wang Bufan is coming. Even if it's true, it's too high profile. It's interesting, let's continue." As a state-owned enterprise, this kind of supply channel was originally a market behavior, but now it is full of hints that if it goes on like this, some people will lose their hats, so it is fake. "I know it's fake, I know this person in the newspaper." Zhou Xianfei took the newspaper and pointed to Lu Feng's photo. "A half-month ago, I went to Yishan Steel Group to do steel production. Mr. Huang over there mentioned this person to me." Secretary Li frowned a little and said, "How did this get out of our city?" General Manager Huang admired him very much, and he even showed me a newspaper with his photo on it. This man opened a children's food factory and just finished the market competition with a local factory. Now he encourages free market competition. Well, so this thing is a model. Zhou Xianfei picked up the newspaper, looked at Lu Feng's photo for a while, and said, "What does he want to do? He came to our city to play tricks. By the way, General Manager Huang told me that this man has a lot of ideas. If you want me to see it, he should be staring at him. It is our pillar industry." "You mean raw material processing?" "Yes, the raw materials of his factories come from our city. I don't want to be controlled by others. The steel in our city comes from the metallurgical steel group. Everyone has their own industries. Zozian Fi stood up and paced around the office, saying, as far as the ability of the companies and factories in our city to form a group, he must not be able to intervene, so he came up with this trick. Then what do you mean, let him go back, Secretary Lee guessed. It doesn't say that if you come from the airport tomorrow, let the city office pick you up, and I will have a meeting with him after receiving this. Zozian Fi said directly, you go to it? Secretary Lee was a little suspicious, but didn't say anything, just nodded in agreement. The city's enterprises formed a hometown association, and the relationship was complicated. Lu Feng wanted to have his own place, but Zozian Fi didn't like this atmosphere. Now they are encouraged to start their own businesses and to go to sea. They hold together as a monolith, and Zozian Fi is a little bit helpless. Taking the opportunity of Lu Feng, he might be able to disband the fellow villagers. This year, it's true or false, who knows, everyone just wants to do their own thing, Zozian Fi said, holding up the teacup on the table. The local business community has paid close attention to Wenbufan, and even some important local newspapers have begun to report it. More and more people are convinced that the White Rabbit is really coming. Especially in the Association of Hometowns, special attention is paid. No matter who the flower is, it will quickly grow into the first supplier of local raw materials, not to mention tens of millions. Even if it exceeds 100 million, it is not a problem. This temptation is too great. So big that even a lascivious person like Qian Zongnan left his little girl behind and prepared to welcome Wenbufan wholeheartedly, and even rented a dozen Audi cars to make the show look great. At 7 o'clock the next morning, Lu Feng had already rushed to the airport by car. Everything was being prepared at the scene. From now on, a large-scale performance was about to be staged. Bai Yuanfang put on delicate makeup, looked a bit feminine, and put on professional clothes. Compared to when she first met, she was completely different. When the time comes, you can just get in the car. He has hired more than a dozen autos, which is easy to recognize, Bai Yuanfang said. Don't worry, I have to have a southern accent, right? Lu Feng cleared his throat and asked himself to change his accent, thinking to himself that if he succeeds, he will sign the contract within 2 days and then he will be able to go back. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 67. After 8 o'clock, Lu Feng was waiting in the VIP room in a suit and leather shoes, and there were more than a dozen bodyguards waiting in the rest area. The scene was not too big. Outside the airport, reporters from local newspapers and TV stations were ready. The airport was in full force. A row of security guards maintained order. Not far away, there were more than a dozen Audi cars parked. Banners were drawn to welcome Mr. Wenbufan to come and guide the work. Some of the surrounding locals thought it was a big star, or the leader was coming, and watched from a distance. What character? I don't know, it seems to be quite famous. It must be the most popular ones, who else? The most popular? Who is the most popular? Who else? Face Yang, you are like a fire in that winter. Before 9 o'clock, the Mercedes-Benz team, the BMW team, the Jaguar team, row after row, absolutely mobilized all the luxury cars in the city today. It is rare to see it on weekdays, but today there are groups of people who are bosses of food raw material processing enterprises. Qian Zongnan felt a little unhappy when he saw this scene. The robbery war is imminent. Bai Yuanfang was dressed very solemnly, and she couldn't see any injuries on her face. Standing at the exit of the airport, holding a bunch of flowers in her hand, she quietly glanced at Qian Zongnan's anxiety and said, "Don't worry, we have already booked. Now, I'm the connector here, so you can rest assured." That's good. Qian Zongnan took a deep breath, looked at a few people not far away, and cursed. At 9:30, there was a flight from the south. Lu Feng walked out of the VIP room at the right time. The bodyguards behind him quickly followed. There were more than a dozen people in black suits and sunglasses. In the era of the battle, it is absolutely shocking. Lu Feng was surrounded in the middle, and the people next to him who had just got off the plane didn't dare to leave. They stared at each other with wide eyes. If they had a mobile phone, they would definitely take a picture and post it on a Moments or something. Mr. Wang is out. I don't know who shouted. The reporter hulas and squeezes forward. The camera is already aimed at the exit, the security is blocking, and the scene is a bit chaotic. Bai Yuanfang stood there with her hands clenched. On such a big occasion, not to mention the city, I heard that several cities around her were alarmed, so it was false that she was not nervous. As soon as Lu Feng walked out of the exit, he immediately put on his sunglasses and waved at the reporters very naturally. Mr. Wen, I'm Bai Yuanfang. I'm here to pick you up. Bai Yuanfang stepped forward and said that he was about to pull Lu Feng into the car. Don't worry, there are so many reporter friends, let me just say a few words. Lu Feng patted her hand lightly, feeling a little helpless. He had to act in a full set, and he set up such a big battle just to have a cut scene. Bai Yuanfang was anxious and talked a lot, so she nodded and whispered, hurry up, don't talk nonsense. Lu Feng nodded, faced the reporter, and said, I'm very happy to be in Baiwan City. It's very beautiful. I can simply answer a few questions. Mr. Wen, I heard that you are here to find new suppliers. Yes, our big white rabbit will have a new industry and need new suppliers, especially for the northern market, so come here and take a look. Are there any specific intentions, such as which company? Is it a state-owned company or a private company? We only look at the ability, fair competition, and hope to bring new changes to Baiwan City, especially in the processing of food materials. Well, I will go first. Qian Zongnan hurriedly stepped forward, stretched out his hand and said, hello, I'm the owner of the Zongnan Processing Factory, Qian Zongnan, this is my wife. Lu Feng stretched out his hand and shook it. Bai Yuanfang, who was beside him, heard the other party introduce himself as his wife, with a somewhat unnatural expression on his face, and said, Mr. Wen, the car is ready, you can get in the car first. Please. Lu Feng walked towards the convoy. Other bosses waved their hands and wanted Lu Feng to say something, but they were blocked by the people arranged by Qian Zongnan. Haven't waited by the car yet. A Toyota Crown stopped in front of him, and the co-pilot walked down. A man in his 30s, wearing golden glasses and looking polite. Who are you? Why are you blocking the car here? Qian Zongnan said, a little upset. The other party ignored him at all, looked directly at Lu Feng and said, Mr. Wen, right? Please get in the car. Who are you? Let people get in the car. Is it robbing people? Bai Yuanfang grabbed Lu Feng, for fear of being robbed, and now he went to the factory safely and took care of the most important thing. I'm from the city office. Secretary Zhou heard that Mr. Wang came to inspect suppliers on behalf of his father. He paid special attention to it and wanted to meet Mr. Wang and give instructions on the development of our city's industry. Secretary Li said with a smile, please. Lu Feng already knew in his heart that this time he played a big game. Even if you don't go today, you have to go, and it's very likely that you will be exposed on the spot. Now the big white rabbit is still a state-owned enterprise, and Lu Feng is impersonating the children of government officials, but it is illegal. Bai Yuanfang was so anxious that he rubbed his hands beside him. Lu Feng was afraid that she would show his feet on the spot, so he raised his arms around her waist, pulled her to his side, and patted her on the back lightly. Thank you for your leadership. Bai Yuanfang is Qian Zongnan's wife. With so many people around, Lu Feng is still restless, and the few people standing behind him are a little embarrassed to see such a small gesture. Qian Zongnan also saw it. Originally, he didn't believe that Bai Yuanfang had this ability, but a client like La Wenbufan came to see this kind of small action and already understood in his heart. As long as the business is negotiated, nothing matters, let alone Bai Yuanfang, a woman he can't wait to kick away. Everyone politely said a few words. Lu Feng got into the crown car. Seeing the car go away, Bai Yuanfang nervously took 2 steps forward, his heart was like an ant on a hot pot. Why are you so nervous? It's not like you're going to go to jail, Qian Zongnan said, you can play with him as you want in private. I don't care. When there are reporters around, I still hope you will behave yourself. 1 point, understand. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm worried about being robbed of my business by others. Don't tease, he touched you just now, and I saw you. Qian Zongnan snorted, turned his head and got into the car. Sitting in the back seat, Lu Feng was full of thoughts and asked, Secretary Li, I don't know what to do with me. Are you just meeting me? There is something very important. Secretary Li only said 1 sentence, nothing else to be said. The atmosphere was a bit weird. Lu Feng had also been in contact with many such departments in his previous life, and his intuition told him that things were not easy. When I got there, I went to a reception hall on the 4th floor and sat there waiting. A few minutes later, the door was pushed open, and a man in his 40s walked in, with a white shirt and a face with Chinese characters, giving him a bit of a boldness. But those twinkling eyes show that this person is not simple. Hello, Mr. Lu. Hello. Lu Feng said halfway through, realizing that the other person was addressing him as Lu, and hurriedly said, my surname is Wang. I'm sorry, I called it wrong. Sit down. The other party sat down on his own. There were only 2 people in the huge reception room, and even the Secretary Li didn't show up. This is very strange. Generally speaking, there are more than a dozen people in this kind of reception. Now it is more like a private meeting. I don't know what Secretary Zhou asked me to do. If it is about cooperation with local enterprises, I will naturally do this. I also believe in the strength of Baiwan City's enterprises and are very competitive. Zhou Xianfei shook his head and said, I don't care if your surname is Lu or Wang, and I don't care where you come from or what kind of immortal you are. Since you came here for local food processing, you have to do something for me. Having said that, Lu Feng understands that he has probably been investigated upside down. It is better to bow your head as a knife and me as a fish. You said, as long as I can do it. Find a way to break up the local association for me. Hometown association? You mean the one that processed the raw materials? Yes, there are 46 raw material supply factories in there, accounting for more than 80% of the local private enterprises, and some state-owned enterprise owners are also there. Some are local, some are non-local, and they are not united, basically divided into 3 strands. The relationship is very chaotic. Isn't it encouraging market competition now? Why did you dismantle this association? Lu Feng wondered. I'm restrained, don't ask more. Lu Feng nodded to show that he understood that this time he was really playing a big game, as if he had inadvertently been involved in some great event. I was thinking of going back in a few days, but it seems to be enough. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 68. Lu Feng took a brief look at the association, which was divided into 3 parts, some were foreigners, some were locals, and some were state-owned enterprises after the mixed ownership reform. The 3 groups of people represent different interests, and they are also competing with each other. If you guessed correctly, Zhou Weiman should be from this wave of locals, while Qian Zongnan is a foreigner. For such a large interest group, Lu Feng could not break it down alone. He had a meal with Zhou Xianfei alone at the city office at noon. During the banquet, Zhou Xianfei said, "Don't worry, take your time, they are not monolithic. Now you have successfully attracted the attention of 3 waves of people who want to eat your big cake, and they will definitely fight. You only need to just intensify their conflict. I can only say that if you give it a try, you may not succeed. Lu Feng could only say that. I will help you. Lu Feng nodded and said nothing. He knew in his heart that he was using himself as a spearman, and he was inconvenient for some things to come forward. Bai Yuanfang hurriedly turned around outside the gate. It was a good thing. Why did he kill Chen Yaojin halfway? It wasn't until 3 o'clock in the afternoon that Lu Feng walked out of the gate. Bai Yuanfang hurried up and asked, "How is it?" "It's not convenient to talk here, let's talk about it in another place. There are a lot of people waiting outside." He was in a hurry. He asked someone to let me enter the gate and wait at the gate. "I want to have dinner with you in the evening, take you to visit the factory, and settle things down." Lu Feng shook his head and said, "There's a change, it's not just about us. Take your time. Qian Zongnan is a foreigner, right?" "Yes, we are both out of town." "The people waiting outside, are there any state-owned enterprise mixed reform, local?" "Don't get involved in these, the main thing is to get the equity, you promise me." Bai Yuanfang was a little anxious. "There are too many things here, the water is too deep, she wants to get the factory, and Qian Zongnan divorce." "I know." Lu Feng could hear that two groups of people outside should be waiting and walked towards the outside. As soon as he walked out of the gate, a group of people surrounded him. The first one was an uncle in his 60s or 70s, with grey hair, leaning on crutches, with gold teeth, a tang suit, and several gold thorns on his fingers. "It doesn't look like an ordinary person." "Xiao Weng has grown taller, do you still recognize me?" The uncle said that he considered himself an elder. Lu Feng glanced at him. The other party was obviously pretending to be here. If he really knew him, he should have known that he had mistaken him. He shook his head and said, "I don't know. I went to your house to see you when you were young, and it's normal that I don't remember. A week ago, your father called me and said that you were coming over and asked the uncle to take care of you. Today, the uncle is the host, please." Lu Feng was almost convinced by what he said, and said with a smile, "Who are you? You don't even know the third master of Jin, do you still want to hang out in Baiwan?" "That's right, in the raw material market, who doesn't know the name of the third master of Jin? You are a ferdal, and you don't have the same knowledge as you." "Shut up." Third master Jin turned his head and scolded him, bared a few golden teeth at Lu Feng, and said, "Let's go, let's talk about old times. I've already eaten. It's been a very tiring day. I'll go back to the hotel to rest first." "How about I have dinner with you tonight?" Lu Feng asked. Third master Jin thought for a moment. "Okay, business is not business, it doesn't matter, the main reason is that I want to see the younger generation. You were a child back then, and I don't think you are an ordinary person." The other party was a series of flattery again. Lu Feng agreed and hurriedly got into the car. The car went straight to the only 5-star hotel in the area, the Haoyu Hotel. Lu Feng asked, "Who was that third master Jin just now?" "The current president of the Township Association, that man is still a bastard in his 40s. In the early 1980s, he dumped raw materials and made money. He was the earliest one. He was the first to attract a large number of people, and he was the most difficult to mess with. Everyone has to give him some face." Bai Yuanfang sighed. Apparently disappointed with what happened today, he turned his head to look at Lu Feng and said, "Go to the hotel in a while and talk to him. Make a decision first. He will be waiting for you at the hotel." "Don't worry, he should be worried about such a big business. What do I think I'm worried about?" Lu Feng said, "Be steady, we can talk, but there is no need to promise anything. At that time, I will use the stable source of raw materials as an excuse, or it's asking for benefits or something, and taking control of his factory. But I'm afraid that there will be too many dreams at night," Bai Yuanfang said worriedly. "More dreams?" Lu Feng himself didn't know when he would wake up from this dream, and Zhou Xianfei was just prolonging the dream. Baiwan City is much better than the city where Lu Feng is located. It is now a second-tier city. After all, the city where Lu Feng is located does not even have a 5-star hotel. 20-story high-rise buildings with fountains at the entrances, Mercedes-Benz Autos parked in the parking lot, and even the little brother who drives the door for others, all wear tall hats and uniforms. This is how this era is, full of exaggeration. Wind, this trend will peak in the 1990s. The car door opened, and 4 or 5 young men stood beside them, their bodies straight, and gave Lu Feng a salute. After getting out of the car, Lu Feng tidied up his suits and felt that his whole body was light and light. This is the advantage of cheap population. You can hire 4 or 5 young adults to stand at the door and salute you. The bodyguards in the morning followed and escorted Lu Feng forward. This kind of battle attracted a lot of people to watch, one by one whispering who they were. What floor is he on? The 17th floor, eat first. Eat again. Lu Feng just finished eating with Zhou Xianfei at noon, with Qian Zongnan in the afternoon, and Jin Sanyi in the evening. Don't do anything, eat all day long. Just a few bites, that is to say, he was a little anxious, and felt that he was unlikely to be favored by the big white rabbit group, so he called Mr. Shi, the vice president of the Fellow Townsmen's Association, and he is also the leader of our non-local people. Compared with his factory Big Bai Yuan Fang whispered, I think you should give him some sweetness, at least make him feel that this can be done. Do not worry. On the 17th floor, the most luxurious imperial private room has been wrapped up by Qian Zongnan. It is absolutely luxurious. It is said that there are only things you can't think of here, and no one else can't do it. More than just eating, the emperor's room is 237 square meters in size, and a small stage has been built. Various performances can be played at any time. There are dance teams stationed here all year round. Welcome. The 2 rows of waiters were tall and good-looking. All of them smiled and bowed slightly. Lu Feng nodded. A foreman standing at the door opened the door and said, Mr. Qian, your distinguished guest is here. Oh, it's coming, I want to kill me. Qian Zongnan ran out excitedly, and grabbed Lu Feng's hand tightly as soon as they met, as if he was afraid that he would run away. Mr. Qian, isn't it? Hello, Lu Feng said politely. Originally, this meal was for noon, but you were invited by the municipal government. This is my wife, Qian Zongnan hurriedly said, please, let me introduce you to someone. Entering the inside, there was a man in his 50s, wearing glasses, looking gentle and not tall. The other party saw Lu Feng, stretched out his hand and said, Welcome Mr. Wang, you can come, really it is Pengpa Gui. This is the vice president of our hometown association, Mr. Shi, his factory has a lot of business. Mr. Shi, hello. Everyone was polite and finally sat down. Qian Zongnan just arranged Bai Yuan Fang by Lu Feng's side. He knew very well that although his wife had a good-looking appearance, she had such a feminine look that Lu Feng's age couldn't handle it. Order someone, call the girl, play music, serve food. Before Lu Feng could react, 7 or 8 girls walked in, some with pipa and some with gukin. The lights turned on, and a white mist spewed out. The atmosphere changed instantly. Money can make a ghost run a mill, and Lu Feng also sighed in his heart. Dancing and playing music next to him, the delicacies of mountains and seas were served. Mr. Shi asked, Mr. Wang, isn't there a stable supply of white rabbits? Why? Suddenly thought of running here to see the supplier. Isn't it stimulating the private economy now, encouraging everyone to start a business? Go to the sea, we Big White Rabbit will make some changes in the northern market, so we need new suppliers, and the most important thing is to launch new products. Once this product sells well, you guys to be the only supplier, not to mention tens of millions, or to break through 100 million, is a small matter. Lu Feng's remarks made President Qi and Qian Zongnan's eyes glow with gold stars. Breaking 100 million? I'll give you a toast. Qian Zongnan raised the glass and quietly winked at Bai Yuanfang. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 69. Mr. Wang is catching a plane and busy with a meeting. I'm already a little tired. I'll take a rest in a while, Bai Yuanfang said, holding up his glass. Let's go away in a while. Okay, I rely more on Mr. Wang. If you have anything to say to my wife, it's all my own. Don't be polite. Qian Zongnan came over with a wine glass, a little drunk, and said, I'm older than you. When you are a few years old, you dare to be your eldest brother. She is your sister-in-law, so don't be so polite to sister-in-law. It's better than dumplings, Mr. Shi joked. Yes, yes, Qian Zongnan's face became excited. He pushed Bai Yuanfang into Lu Feng's arms, and said with a smile, don't be polite to your brother, it's all from your own family. Ha 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 ha, Mr. Shi could not stand upright with laughter. The atmosphere at the scene was full of embarrassment about meat and jokes. Lu Feng clinked glasses with them and had a drink. Qian Zongnan held Lu Feng's hand tightly and whispered, brother, my brother's factory has large output, good quality and advanced equipment. Whatever you need, it can be produced immediately, and international standards are no problem. Yes, our two families are definitely the most advanced food grades in the local area. Mr. Shi held Lu Feng's other hand. He also noticed that Lu Feng seemed to have an ambiguous relationship with Bai Yuanfang. He also heard that it was Bai Yuanfang's lead. Seeing Qian Zongnan's appearance, Mr. Shi understands that as long as the money is in place, he will wear this hat, and he is very happy to wear it. Such a big business, there are not many opportunities in life. If you miss it, you may really miss it, Mr. Shi said, taking advantage of the wine. Mr. Wang, one day I will show you my wife, who is several years younger than me. Well, she's only 1 year older than Yuanfang. She was a famous handsome girl in 8 townships back then. What nonsense are you talking about? Mr. Wang is a big boy, don't be ashamed of him, Bai Yuanfang said aside. Sister Bai and I are confidants, Lu Feng explained. I know, I understand, Qian Zongnan patted his chest and said, the friendship of souls is not something that mortals like us can spy on. My sister-in-law and I have a very mellow relationship, so I won't think about it too much, don't worry. Brother, you must give priority to us. Lu Feng didn't listen to what Qian Zongnan and Mr. Shi said later. These two are pure businessmen who can sell anything. It is a bloody profit to exchange a bad wife for the opportunity to soar to the sky. 3 big joys for middle-aged men: get promoted, get rich and die. It was past 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Bai Yuanfang helped Lu Feng upstairs, and Qian Zongnan followed behind him. He now decided that one thing, he took Bai Yuanfang to Tai Lu Feng, and the cooperation was half. Qian Zongnan didn't have to see it with his own eyes, at least he had to hear it with his own ears. He was relieved that he had the handle in his hands. Already at the door of the room, Lu Feng glanced behind him quietly, feeling very helpless, so he opened the door and walked in, closed the door, and saw that Bai Yuanfang was about to speak when the other party took off the light jacket outside. What are you doing? Lu Feng asked with wide eyes. As soon as he finished speaking, Bai Yuanfang covered his mouth, walked inside, and whispered, you didn't hear it, he just wanted something to happen to the two of us, so that he could get away with it. Cooperation is more certain. I know, but the two of us have already entered the house. Believe it or not, he's lying outside listening to the sound now. He won't let it go if he doesn't move. Take it off, hurry up. Bai Yuanfang started to undress as he spoke. Lu Feng is one big and too big. I can only say that the current business world is even more crazy. What is this? Just don't get too excited. Lu Feng raised his head and found that she had taken off her clothes. Before she could react, she was pushed onto the bed by Bai Yuanfang. Lu Feng hurriedly covered himself with the quilt and said, "It's really unnecessary. Hurry up." There was a flame burning in Bai Yuanfang's eyes, staring at Lu Feng like a gasping bull, a little terrifying. Lu Feng felt that even if Qian Zongnan didn't play these tricks, Bai Yuanfang wanted to eat himself. Nothing compares. This kind of bed relationship is more binding. I drank too much, I can't. Lu Feng waved his hands again and again. You call it twice, you can just say what you mean. Lu Feng refused several times. Bai Yuanfang had no choice but to listen to him. Qian Zongnan outside the door heard the news and returned to the private room contentedly. Lu Feng took a hot shower, and the smell of alcohol was almost gone. He sat on the bed and changed his clothes. Bai Yuanfang looked at him and said, "You despise me." "Sister, don't say that." Lu Feng turned to look at her and said, "I just ran away from home, I don't know where to go, and you, just want to get your property. You think I have had a baby? My son is in 5th grade, and his grandmother is taking him with him. When the time comes to divorce, I will give him the baby and we will have another one." "Sister, the more you say it, the more outrageous it is." Lu Feng felt his scalp tingling. Bai Yuanfang stopped talking. She knew that divorce from Qian Zongnan was a sure thing. After that, she still had to find a man to live. In her eyes, Lu Feng was definitely a very good choice. A college student who was younger than herself was perfect. "You can rest for a while. Master Jin will invite you to dinner tonight." Thinking of this, Lu Feng had a headache, so he nodded and lay on the bed, not daring to sleep. Bai Yuanfang obviously sensed his worry, and said, "I won't eat you again, sleep in peace." Qian Zongnan began to announce in the afternoon that he had reached a preliminary intention with Mr. Wang, and the other party was very optimistic about his and Mr. Shi's factories. The arrival of Lu Feng has completely boiled over the restless business community in Baiwan City, especially the hometown association. The three forces are incompatible with each other. Everyone wants to swallow the other, and now they are full of anger. Third Master Jin even called President Xi directly to inform the other party that this transaction, but he Jin sans hands, no one would want to do it. Really think that these people are eating rice? President Xi refused on the spot, and let him have the ability to see the real chapter under his hands. The business world that Lu Feng has experienced is a business world that has faded away and only has the smell of copper, but now the business world of Baiwan City is more like a river and lake, where all parties are entrenched and their interests are intertwined. At 7:30 in the evening, Lu Feng woke up. Bai Yuanfang saw that he was awake and said, "There are 5 minutes left, and the convoy of Jin Sanyi is coming. Why don't you eat here?" Lu Feng wondered. In his villa in the suburbs, Bai Yuanfang said worriedly, "I think it's better to tell him to come here and go to his site, it's not complete." Lu Feng twisted the button of his shirt and said, "What are you afraid of? He wants to do business, so he can't do anything to me. Besides, I am Mr. Wen now, and Big White Rabbit is a state-owned enterprise. My dad's level is not low, he doesn't want to live anymore? Yes, I'll go with you." 10 minutes later, there was a row of tigers running downstairs. Standing there were more than a dozen sturdy young men, yishui suits and sunglasses. Lu Feng went downstairs, everyone bowed and shouted, "On behalf of the third Master Jin, welcome Mr. Wen, please." Lu Feng walked in front of them, looked at these people, and asked, "Will you be considered blind if you wear sunglasses at night?" A young man couldn't help laughing, and hurriedly held back. Lu Feng got into the car, and Bai Yuanfang wanted to get up, but was stopped. "I'm sorry, third Master Jin only invited Mr. Wang alone." Lu Feng looked at Bai Yuanfang and said, "It's okay, I can do it myself, you can go back. Bai Yuanfang nodded, a little worried in his eyes. Everyone got into the car, and the car sped away toward the suburbs. No factories have been developed in the suburbs now. There are green mountains and rivers, and land is not rare. A Chinese-style courtyard has been built at the foot of a short-footed mountain. Looking down from the top, you can see pavilions and ponds. Running water, meandering down, is expensive. Lu Feng got out of the car and looked at the door plate with two gilt characters, Jinfu. After entering, I walked through the 3 entrances. The third master was sitting in the middle hall. When he saw Lu Feng coming, he stood up and said with a smile, "Mr. Hard Work, Mr. Weng, the house has prepared wine and food, please. Master Jin is really very elegant. In this place, he built an antique mansion." Lu Feng looked around. Such a large yard will appreciate in value even after a few decades. It's just a trivial idea. As long as the cooperation is negotiated, you can send it to this house if you like it. Third Master Jin looked at Lu Feng with a smile and said, "And there are more than a dozen waiters, all of whom are prostitutes." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 70. Third Master Jin bit the word very hard, with a smile I know on his face. Lu Feng was stunned for a moment, then immediately reacted, smiled bitterly, and thought to himself, "It's really good things don't go out, bad things spread thousands of miles." Qian Zongnan is also a strange person. When they entered the room, it was as warm as spring. 7 or 8 people were already seated. When they saw Lu Feng coming in, they all stood up. All of them looked like they were in their 40s with an average age. "Hello, Mr. Weng," everyone said politely. "Let me introduce you, this is the boss of Tianhe Factory, Boss Ye." Third Master Jin introduced them one by one, but Lu Feng didn't have much thought to understand them. "Sit down, there is another boss Zhou, who has been busy outside recently and should come back after a while. I will introduce to you when the time comes. We are all monolithic. A total of 11 factories, advancing and retreating together." "Very good, very fraternal," Lu Feng said politely, sat down, and understood why Zhou Xianfei wanted to tear down the association of hometownsmen. For him, this kind of chamber of commerce had only disadvantages and no advantages. Without reaching into the business world, many things cannot be implemented. "I heard that Mr. Weng talked with Qian Zongnan this afternoon," someone asked. Lu Feng nodded and said, "Yes, Mr. Qian and Mr. Shi still have some strength. They had a meal together in the afternoon, but they haven't decided yet." "Did you hear me? I just chatted for a few words. It's raining all over the city. Damn, I'm afraid that others won't know that he is wearing a hat." Third Master Jin patted Lu Feng's shoulder with his hand and said, "Little brother, if you want to, so can my daughter-in-law." Ha 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 ha. Everyone at the scene was laughing back and forth. Lu Feng's face was full of embarrassment. Third Master Jin was in his 60s or 70s, and his wife could be her grandmother. Lu Feng could also feel that most of the people at the scene had no culture, and most of them had tattoos, and they had a street ruffian vibe. Qian Zongnan's gang has a femininity and is good at framing themselves, including a woman like Bai Yuanfang, who can also represent an attitude of their circle. They have no culture, but they pursue culture on their own. "Master Jin, you're joking," Lu Feng said, picked up his chopsticks and ate a few mouthfuls of food. The scene was full of dirty jokes, which were very rude, and even to add to the fun, a few actors were called. The actress only wore a red apron and cooperated with the actor, talking about the things in the crotch. In contrast, Qian Zongnan's pipa dance seems to be a lot more elegant. After 3 inspections of food and 5 flavors, these bosses are a bit rambunctious. One of them took out 1,000 yuan from his bag and waved at the actress. The actress also understood it, and when she took the money, she touched it by the way. Soft. Ha 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 ha. Third Master Jin is a rough-looking person with a delicate mind. He found that Lu Feng was not suitable for this kind of occasion, so he coughed and said, "You guys go out, Mr. Wang is from a big city, don't mess with these things, let's talk about business." Bar. Lu Feng repeated what he said to Qian Zongnan in the afternoon, and the expressions on the faces of everyone at the scene became serious. According to Lu Feng, whoever eats the big gift of the white rabbit will have an asset of over 100 million yuan. Of Mr. Wang, I'm 67 this year, and I'll be your brother. I used to be a jerk. I've been a jerk for most of my life. I don't like to talk around. Third Master Jin cupped his hands and said with a calm face, "You just say, what do you need for this cooperation, whether it is machinery, production standards, or venues, scale, rebates, you can make it clear. I have nothing to say, you just say, I like my granddaughter, I am also happy to recognize you as a granddaughter-in-law. Mr. Wang, the granddaughter of the third master of Jin, she is absolutely beautiful in the whole city. She is so beautiful. She is only 19 this year. Yes, with you, that is absolutely perfect. It's so beautiful, those who pursue her. From here you can go out of the province." Everyone praised, "This girl seems to be more beautiful than the big star." Lu Feng was a little curious, seeing the appearance of the third master Jin. It is very ordinary, but he was a jerk when he was young, and his wife should be beautiful. "Would you like to take a look? Just today?" Lu Feng laughed, "Then let's meet and leave it to a friend. You call Arya and say that Grandpa will introduce her to someone." Third Master Jin instructed to the side. Don't, I'm still young, only 19, and the person I'm introducing is not suitable, just say I know a friend." Lu Feng hurriedly changed his words. A few minutes later, a voice came from outside the door, "Grandpa, who is looking for me?" The voice was a little slender, and the description of the group just now made people think. Lu Feng stared at the door with wide eyes. The door curtain was moved, and the next scene made Lu Feng's canthus split. A girl about the width of the door walked in and looked at it roughly. She was about 1.6 meters tall, with very rough facial features, a pair of small eyes, and two ball-shaped heads. This girl was particularly refreshing. Second girl, she's beautiful again. Indeed, it is estimated that more people have been pursued recently. Everyone was talking about it. Lu Feng was shocked. When did these people go blind? In the afternoon, Bai Yuanfang told him that the third master of Jin was powerful in Baiwen City. He didn't believe it, but now he really believed it. Is this still queuing to other provinces? It is enough to see that the Lao Jin family is not ordinary rich. Yeah, come here, I'll introduce you to someone, Mr. Wang. Third Master Jin waved with kindness on his face. "Friend, just get to know each other," Lu Feng hurriedly corrected. Arya stepped forward and saw that Lu Feng was gentle, in a suit and leather shoes, giving him an indescribable temperament. It was impossible to say that he didn't like it. "Grandpa, I do," Arya said with a blushing face. "Okay. Tonight's bridal chamber," someone yelled. This sentence almost scared Lu Feng's heart out, and hurriedly said, "Don't make trouble, I have a hobby, I like other people's wives. Jin Sanyi, your granddaughter is beautiful and charming, I really don't deserve it, it's better to talk about business." Arya was a little unhappy and walked away in annoyance. Lu Feng finally put his heart in his stomach. After all, he was on other people's territory. "I didn't expect Mr. Wang to like other people's wives at such a young age, and he is also a man of temperament. It doesn't hurt to play someone else's, it's the same as driving someone else's car. Yes, toss as much as you want, just toss your clothes off." Seeing that they were talking more and more, Lu Feng hurriedly said, "Let's talk about business, let's talk about business." "Don't talk nonsense, Mr. Wang is a gentleman, one by one, and no one has a door on his mouth." Third Master Jin looked at Lu Feng and said, "Mr. Wang, tell me. I hit it off with you, and I can feel that everyone is special, honest. Let's put it this way, the reason why we are looking for new suppliers is that there are new products on the line. New product, everyone stared at Lu Feng with wide eyes. The Big White Rabbit toffee sells well. We're going to launch a toffee called Big Dairy Cow. It's an independent company, an independent factory, and an independent sales route. This time it's a public-private partnership. Lu Feng cleared his throat and said, it will definitely make money. If we want to become a supplier of a new company, first of all, in order to ensure the supply chain, we need to invest in shares, but we don't want to pay. In order to give back to you, we can sell some of the shares to you in the private shares. Is it just using shares for shares? Jin Sanyi asked. No, exchange shares for an opportunity to spend money to buy shares. Lu Feng looked at the crowd and said, let me tell you, this company is a state-owned enterprise with 51% of the shares. Once it is established, it will inject several capitals. First, 100 million, listed within a year, and what you have in your hands is the original stock. Everyone has already begun to be jealous. This is definitely a surefire business. Once listed, the money will be returned tenfold. As for the shares of their own factories, they are worthless. And with the Big White Rabbit Group, the value will soar all the way, just like picking up money.